Hello guys, my name is kiminekyt and I welcome you to the best non-premium moneymakers. The tanks that earn a lot of money while not being premium. Those that are accessible to everyone and still make a lot of credits. Those that make a lot while you're not. Jesus, that was so bad. Either way, as some of you might remember, in my last list video I said that I'll probably never make a list video again. I'm probably never going to make a list like this again. Yeah, about that, I kind of lied. Now for real, I always release these two lists together and I didn't want this time to be any different. But still, as I already said, today I'm going to focus on the top 5 non-premium moneymakers, and before I even start this video, I'm gonna set a couple of rules that I'll follow throughout the entire video, partially because there is an awful lot of artilleries in top spots and I doubt that any of you would like to watch a presentation of the highest earning artilleries. I'm also making these rules because there were a few tanks that ended up tied and I needed a way of choosing which of them will stay and which of them will go. But now to the rules. Rule number 1. As always, the tanks can be just good at making money. In order to appear on the list, they also need to be sort of fun to play. This is also the rule that I like to dab: fuck you, you potato shooting cunts. Rule number 2. This is my list, so I'm the one choosing tanks. The fact that a certain tank is in a top 10 on, for example, VB Addict right now doesn't mean that it's going to stay like that the next week. That's literally the reason why I'm making this list at all. And lastly, the tanks should have decent hard tiers you can grind out of them. This is more of a preference rather than a rule, but sometimes it was literally the only way I could choose between two tanks. Either way, with that being said, let's get to the first tank on this list, which I deliberately placed so far down I might have given it an actual Down syndrome. It's the M44. Yes, I hate artilleries. Who wouldn't? But the M44 is the only arty on this tier that I found somewhat enjoyable to play. Maybe it is because it looks like a shopping cart that just had a stroke, or maybe it is because it's pretty fucking broken. But I simply like it, alright? Everyone's beautiful on the inside. Wow. The M44 is an artillery notorious for its fast reload of just 19 seconds and a caliber that's giving it a decent splash radius of 7 meters, meaning that it not only hits often, but also, well, hits. Hitting the enemy is one of the most difficult things to do while playing an artillery, mostly because you cannot really affect it by your skill. However, you can always pick a tank that has a higher chance of hitting the target. And that's exactly what the M44 is like made for. A lot of shells, a lot of large explosions, and a lot of salty heavies are able to get through a major choke point. Additionally, the M44 has a pretty good accuracy, by RT standards at least, so you can hit those moving buffets even more reliably. Last but not least, I'm saddened to announce that M44 is a bloody trap. Hell, you can see that dick steady gold dicey glorious even without skirts, but that's not what I meant. This tank has a top speed of 56 km per hour and a horsepower-ton ratio of 19, giving the impression that you might drive it around like a fucking Russian. But nah, in reality it moves barely faster than the mobility scooter of your grandma that she uses to get to the grocery shop. However, have you ever tried installing a turbo into it? Because that's exactly what our next tank is gonna be like. This overgrown Roomba is called MX-12D and is kinda like me after a cup of coffee. Hyperactive, hectic and nonsensical, but on top of that it has an autoloader capable of firing 4 shells within 7.5 seconds, which can deal a grand total of 540 damage. It might not be all that good for straight up dealing damage, but it's pretty damn good for finishing off opponents after your team dealt most of the damage. It's a light tank after all, and a good one at that. With 60 km per hour top speed, astounding horsepower-ton ratio and decent ground resistances, it's one of the fastest tanks on this tier. Combine that with the size of a Tic Tac and you get the MX-12D. It might not have all that much armor, but with its camo and agility, there is no need for it. It definitely won't be winning any matches against our light tanks anytime soon, but gets the light tank job done better than any other light tank. Because for what the light tank is supposed to do, you don't need a gun, you don't need armor, all you need to do is to spot enemies and not get hit while doing so. And the MX is just amazing at doing exactly that. Overall, this tank is for those people that aren't too interested in impressive KD ratio but still want to taste the sweet taste of victory. and make some credits, of course. The number 3 tank on this list is gonna be the OI. Wait, holy shit, that's a bit of a size difference. Either way, the OI, is it? The OI is a Japanese heavy tank that's infamous for being the main rival of the already infamous KV-2. But why are both them so infamous? Well, it's because of their curve, their thickness, the raw strength of their potato dispensers they ever so proudly call guns. Simply said, both of them have derp guns. The KV-2 in particular used to be known for its one-shotting capabilities, as it could one-shot any lightly armored tank, which there were plenty of at this tier. And even if they had enough armor to not be one-shotted, a single hit from this monstrosity would make them think twice about coming from behind that corner in the future. But the KV-2 was by no means OP, not at all. Hitting anything smaller than Kanye's ego was almost impossible, and whenever you fired, you felt almost like you're rolling with one huge dice roll. The gun was just so inaccurate, and so this tank became more of a meme than an actual threat. People both laughed at it and feared it at the same time, but generally thought nicely about it. But then came the OI. OI, which meant business. This tank not only has the derpy gun of the KV-2, but it also has the weight and armor to literally roll over its enemies. Seriously, this thing is so fat it might as well start talking about the wage gap. The OI also has AP rounds with 121 armor penetration, compared to the 110 found on the KV-2. This means that the OI can reliably penetrate mediumly armored breadloaves. Not that you will use those rounds often, but they are always a nice addition to have. However, the main advantage of the OI is in its armor, which is really thick. 150mm to be exact, which is more than capable of blocking most guns at this tier. The tank is also quite flat, so we can angle it really easily by just turning the tank a bit to the side. It's basically a tier 6 mouse, except for the fact that it's brain dead in terms of difficulty. The only downside of it is its horrific mobility. Remember when I said how bad is the M44's mobility? This thing has 8 horsepower ton ratio. Fucking 8! That's the acceleration you get with a fucking lawnmower. But come to think of it, if it moved any faster, it wouldn't be killing its enemies with shells. It would be killing them with heart attacks. The number 2 tank on this list is gonna be the SU-100, or as I like to call it, the tank I started liking only recently. That's a peak of comedy right there. So though, the SU-100 is a tank I started playing quite recently, and quite recently I realized just how broken it is. Like, I played it before, it just at the time I was going through the I don't give a fuck, just give me tier 10 phase. So, well, I didn't give a fuck about it and went straight to the tier 10. But a couple of months ago, one of my fans asked me which tier 6 I would recommend to him, since he had a free tier 6 token. And since I didn't want to answer with Nashorn, I decided to go to the WOD replays and look at which tanks seemed to do good at the time. And to my surprise, the SU-100 was doing really good. So I bought it, played it, and confirmed that SU is indeed good. Either way, the SU-100 is so powerful mainly thanks to its not 1, not 2, but 3 competent top guns. The first one has amazing accuracy, which is a bloody miracle considering that it's a Russian TD. The second one has DPM, although not somewhat amazing, and the third one has alpha damage of 390, which is in a class of its own. The strongest one is undoubtedly the alpha damage one, since it provides a lot of alpha without too many downsides. However, since we are talking about the best moneymakers, I'm going to recommend you the DPM gun, as the shells into it cost only 252 credits compared to the 1025 credits for the alpha damage gun. Lastly, I should point out that all of the SU's guns, except for the accuracy gun, do have 175 penetration, which is more than enough to penetrate every equal tier tank. The other side of this tank, so the armor and the mobility, are also quite decent. Not somewhat world-breaking or anything, but definitely not bad. But there is one last thing that I find absolutely glorious about this tank. Its looks. I don't know whether it's the Slavic nature, the Soviet crudeness, or just simply the fact that this tank's not a complete historical abomination. But there is something about it that makes me attracted to it in more ways than one. So get yourself one as well and let the vodka flow through your veins. The front line awaits you, comrade. But now the number one tank on this list, the best non-premium moneymaker out there, the Panzer IV H. This tank was a number of my list already thanks to just how powerful it is. Well, not exactly powerful, but it has a good gun and it makes a ton of money, so I put it on the list. So though, this tank has a 10.5 cm howitzer capable of firing 410 alpha damage high explosive shells with an absolutely ridiculous 7.7 seconds long reload time. This means it basically has a howitzer on the turret, which doesn't have any of the downsides of an ordinary howitzer. It can also fire AP rounds, but just like on the OI, their actual usage is minimal. The 4H armor is also not exactly greatest, but it has armor skirts. Hey, it's something at least. So it can at least decrease some of the incoming damage from high explosives. Only high explosives. Seriously, don't expect it to block anything else. Lastly, mobility is yet again pretty decent, but not something world-breaking. Overall, this tank is really effective at making money. It is also quite fun to play, despite my underwhelming description of it, and it is pretty powerful thanks to its gun alone. It also leads to the VKs and the Maus, which are at the moment some of the most powerful hard tier tanks in the game. Now this would be it if it comes to the list itself, however this time around I decided to add in some honorable mentions since there were more than a few tanks that definitely deserve a spot on the list, but to include all of them I would have to make a top 10 list at the very least. Either way, let's start with a big boy, the ref of the tier 5, the KV-1, which just barely grazed the 4th spot, but I eventually put the MX in its place, not because it would be better, but because I just had to collect all infinity stones and the light tank was the last one I lacked. Next up is a big boy 2, a tank which didn't make it on the list just because I already put the OI there, which made a bit more credits overall. The KV-2, however, is much more fun to play, so if you are looking for a more enjoyable tank to play and don't care about the tiny bit of credits that you will lose, I would definitely recommend you the KV-2. Next up we got a number of lower tier tanks which I didn't include just because they are, well, low tiers, and if you play them you would probably be considered a seal clubber, and trust me, you don't want to be called a seal clubber. Lastly, we get an M4 and a BDR G1B, both which were in the original script I made like 3 months ago, but as I added more and more of the tanks into it, I realized that even if they are both really good moneymakers, they just don't belong to the top 5. Either way, this is gonna be the end of this video. If you don't agree with the tanks on the list, be sure to comment down below so others may see your opinion and take it into consideration as well. My list is after all just my opinion. It's not perfect and it will never be. Either way, hope you enjoyed and I hope that I'll see you next time. Bye.